All right, I'm waiting for it to do the countdown thing. Okay. Good afternoon, friends. I'm Jen Phillips, and I want to introduce you to my new friend, Stephanie Mann. She is a published author, and she has been fighting for the safety of children for decades here in America. Stephanie, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me to be here. I'm looking forward to talking to you.
Very cool. Now, can you tell me a little bit about you? I know you live here in Las Vegas. We met last week and had a great time. But tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you're doing today.
Well, I've been a crime and violence prevention consultant for some 40 years, if you can believe that. It's hard for me to believe that. But I started out in my own community of 17,500 people, and we had a crime wave. That's how I got started, actually. And the crime wave was we didn't have any police department. So we, as volunteers in our community of 17,000 people, about 10 of us got together. We came up with a plan to get neighbors working together, which was very interesting because we did work with the sheriff's department, and we discovered that most of our crime were our own kids. And that was exactly what's happening in just about every community. They start out, and if you don't put a stop to it at an early age, it accelerates. So we reduced our own crime problem by getting neighbors together, saying, you've got to take responsibility for the safety of your own neighborhood and watch out for each other, take down descriptions, and we put on programs down at the high school to let the kids know that we were on the alert. And do you know, it took us about 2.5 years, but we reduced our own crime problem 48% within those 2.5 years.
That's amazing.
Well, any community can do it, because I've worked in this field for a long time. They said, well, it can't be done in our high crime neighborhoods. Oh, yes, it can. We organized in high crime neighborhoods. We put together a neighborhood safety experts. We got a grant for the county, and this is in Northern California. And as a result of that grant, we organized 27 community neighborhood crime prevention committees throughout the whole county. In each town, 27 towns in our county. So then was all volunteer.
That is really cool. Now this sounds like the Neighborhood Watch program. Is this how it got started, or was it already around, or like how does that?
No, that's matter of fact. We got so much publicity that we had the news media calling us up and saying, "How in the world?" Because crime is going up everywhere. And they said, how in the world did you reduce crime without a police department? So Shirley Hankey and I, and she's the co-author of this book. I can see if you can see it.
Alternative to Fear, okay.
Alternative to Fear, Guidelines for Safer Neighborhoods. We went, at that time, the governor of our state was Ronald Reagan. So we made an appointment through our congressman to see Nancy Reagan, and she got a grant for us from the California Youth Authority. And we wrote this book. They paid for it. We sent thousands of these books all over the United States. And that's what helped launch the National Neighborhood Watch program.
Holy cow, how very cool is that? And it's interesting to me. Now, I don't want to get into a political conversation about what's happening in our country at this time, but what I would like to say is I've had conversations with some friends of mine recently about my beliefs about government and what its role is in our lives. And I believe that people should be taking care of people and that's not necessarily the government's job. And when I hear you talking about people taking care of people and people creating a neighborhood watch program from you guys are the from scratch, and taking your crime rate down because you took responsibility for your community is what you did.
Exactly right.
And looking at that, and I look at that and I'm like, holy cow, wow.
And Jennifer, there's nothing new about that. It's what people used to do. And years ago, we had small police forces. And as people got more dependent on the police department, crime went up. And now you've seen in several of our cities where people are very angry with the police, but they don't realize that they have a role to play. And the role is for them to get involved in their own neighborhood. But a lot of people won't do that today without neighborhood safety experts. So that's one of the things that I promote is, training neighborhood experts, people right out of the community on how to go back into the community and help neighbors get together in small groups and take charge because they can do this and it makes that connection. Of course, not now with COVID-19, but it's, that's not going to last forever. And we do need to talk about uh, defunding the police is not responsible, in my opinion, if you don't have something else to fill in the gap. And that has to be citizen involvement. Today, the national average is 2.4 police officers for every 1,000 citizens.
Wow.
And in some communities, it's down like 1.5 police officers for every 1,000 citizens. So to assume that the police can keep you safe is not even possible.
Oh wow. And I remember when we met, I asked you, I said, well, and I don't, I'm not, I'm big on technology. My cell phone is my new best friend, but
Yeah.
like all the apps that are out there today. And I asked you about that Nextdoor app because I do get notifications and things like
Right.
that. And it's like, was that somebody's response to let's try to make that start to happen again? Because Neighborhood Watch was around like when I was a kid.
Right.
Not that I think my parents were involved, but we lived on a military base, so it was different. But um, I don't remember it being like a big deal as an adult with my children. And so like here in Las Vegas, people don't know their neighbors. I've lived
No,
here
they
for
don't.
20 years and I've met my neighbors once and we wave. Like I don't even know their names. I'd never exchanged phone numbers with them at the home that I live at now. I feel safe in my neighborhood. But we don't know each other. We don't know each other.
Well, that was exactly the situation we had years ago because people didn't know each other. And, it's a small group of people, young people. When I said half of the burglars or crime, stealing out of garages or vandalism, these are kids that don't have enough attention, maybe coming out of abusive homes. And what we were discovering was putting the neighborhood back together. There's a real check and balance on youthful behavior. Let me give you an example. I was in one neighborhood meeting and the neighbors were really upset because two little boys were creating a lot of problems in the neighborhood. They were 7 and 9, and they were stealing out of garages. They were pulling up flowers. They were smashing mailboxes. I mean, this stuff gets expensive. And one man said, well, I called the police. And he said, he talked to the neighbor, the mother, and she slammed the door. Well, I guess he did talk to her, but nothing changed. Another neighbor said, yes, I went over and I said, you got to take care of these kids. You got to do something about this because they're driving us crazy. And that was the one that slammed the door in his face. So they were pretty upset that the mother wasn't responsive and that the kids were out of control. Well, they had a very interesting discussion. And several of the people in the neighborhood said, well, let's try something a little more tactful. And they enlisted two of the people that were more tactful and said, why don't you go over and see if you can talk to her and say, we're here to help. We're not here to blame. what can we do to help you? Because I know things that must be difficult. And they did go over, they talked to the mother, and she did invite them in. And she burst into tears when she told him that her husband had been incarcerated, and the boys were very upset about it. Well, as a direct result of that intervention, the whole neighborhood included the boys in their activities. And years later, because I've been doing this a long time, I ran into her and I said, well, how are the boys doing? Because now she said, they are doing so good. She said, one's in college and the other is a junior in high school. And she said, I could not have done it without my neighbors. Now that's an example of how important neighbors can be to a family, because we got a lot of stressed out families. We got a lot of child abuse. Um, to help each other here.
And I know that I don't know any of the statistics. I haven't done any of the research, but I can speak to my own. And I have 4 kids. I've been divorced for it'll be 7 years next month. And I remember taking my kids into the grocery store and my boys are running around the cart, driving me crazy. I'm like, I just need to shop. I need food. They're too young to leave at home. I can't do that. Right. And I remember some woman kind of like, and I like smacked one of my kids, like grabbed him or smacked something. Or they smacked each other. I don't even remember. And she yelled at me. She's like, what the hell kind of parent are you? And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is what's problem with our country right now. And instead of going, hey mom, you're doing a great job. And I can see like you're ready to burst into tears because your children don't listen to you because hell is breaking loose in your family. And instead of being empathetic, instead of being compassionate, instead of finding some way to say, you know what, that's got to be hard. Something. And I just got so angry with her. I said, you know what? When you've got 4 kids and you're divorced and you're a single mom, you talk to me. Okay. And I got angry. And ever since then, when I see a mom who's got kids that are struggling, the mom is struggling. She's got, even, I don't care if she's married or not, but usually it's a mom with little
Right.
kids out shopping. And one of them is having a temper tantrum. And I just say, you're doing a great job. Keep it up. And just give her a little bit of encouragement. Like how hard is that?
Great.
For us to
No,
encourage
that's
one
great.
and provide some love, because we're not getting it from our ex-husbands.
No,
You know,
I'm
and if
sure.
my family doesn't live here, so I don't get it from, I mean, I
Yeah.
get it from them, but they're not here. They help me as much as they can, but they weren't here to help me, babysit my kids or whatever I might have needed. And I really counted on my friends, but my neighbors, I still didn't know.
Well, this is one of the reasons why, having a neighborhood support group is great, because somebody else down the street, 3, 4 houses down, might have 4 kids and doing the same thing you're doing. And you guys could exchange, taking turns, keeping a couple of the older boys and letting them play out in the yard or something while you're shopping. I mean, people used to do that. I think we need to bring that back if we're going to bring the community together. It's going to take we the people. It's not going to be the police. Please believe me, it's not the police. They have so much on their plate right now that it's unbelievable. They're caught between a rock and a hard place, because it's either they're not doing enough or they're doing too much. And let me just say this, because I think it's important. I think we all have to understand that the police is a militaristic organization. It comes from the top down. The leader
And
is the critical one.
and they're reactive.
That's right. Police react to crime. Citizens prevent crime from happening in the first place. So if we can restore community, we can restore our families, make them stronger. We can also help each other. And we can do what the media right now is constantly saying. We got to come together. Okay, how are you going to make that happen? Well, we can make it happen, but we need neighborhood safety experts to help facilitate that kind of operation in our communities.
Fair enough. And I feel like looking at my community, I feel, like I said, I feel very safe in my neighborhood. And I look at, okay, what can I do? And I look at it and I'm like, okay, well, I could go say hello. And right now it's COVID. So I wear my mask and I could go knock on a door, ring a doorbell. There's a space between us and there's,
Right.
some safety there. But I think that one of the blessings of COVID have been connection, that families have been able
Yeah.
to reconnect. And with us not being able to go out, and then here in Las Vegas, going to the strip to a show, or going out to this or that. Now movies are open and bowling is open and things like that. But if you knew your neighbor, you'd have someone to connect to, and you wouldn't
Absolutely.
feel so alone. And I think that in every community, they could benefit from that reminder that you have no idea that, or you maybe forget that every person that's a friend today was a stranger at one time. And you
Absolutely.
don't know if the neighbor you have could be a friend.
You know, I was working, Safe Kids now has a large network of people that are helping each other, and they're helping strengthen communities and citizens. Let me see if I have this little booklet up here. Yes. Um, this is one of the books that the Carr Foundation helped us put together, did the illustrations. It's My First Steps to a Safe Neighborhood. See
Oh,
that? And
oh,
it's just a few, not too many pages, and just to tell you what we put in it to make it simple, because a lot of people think, well, I don't feel comfortable going to my neighbors. How are they going to react? They don't know who I am. How do I do this? So
right.
we put it in this little tiny book, and we're looking for businesses to sponsor these books and pass them out. Realtors would be great for this. And we have had people in doctors' offices put them in their offices so that people can start to say, okay, I can do that. Because let me just say this. If I want to meet my neighbor and I'm feeling kind of stressed about doing that, I might get a friend to go with me, or and just introduce myself, and say, I'm really concerned about the neighborhood. I love it here. I want to make sure it stays safe. But is it okay if I just ask you 3 questions? Because I just live down the block. And most of the neighbors, well, you'll get all kinds of reactions. Some will slam the door in your face, but most will not. And they'll say, oh, okay. Where do you live? Oh, down there. Number 1 question: have you been a victim of crime?
Mm.
Some people talk for quite a long time about that one, and other people, no, I haven't been. Um, what is the biggest concern in our neighborhood for you? One person might say it's a drug dealer down the street. Another one might say it's the pothole in front of my house. You'll get a variety of answers on that one. And then after you've had your conversation, say, well, I'm trying to get the neighbors together to talk about some of these problems and solve them. Would you be interested in helping? Some will say yes, some will say no. You don't need everybody.
Right.
The ones that say yes say, great, can I take your name and I'll give you a call and we'll get together and have coffee and discuss the approach. And we've got approaches in here, all kinds of things you can do. So those are just 3 questions you can ask to get the ball rolling.
Oh, that's
And I think it's critical that we start the ball rolling for people to get back involved in their own safety plan for their own neighborhood, and especially for the children.
Yeah, and I think right now a lot of people are feeling out of control, and that they don't have a voice, they don't have a say. We're wearing our mask, we're staying indoors, we're following the rules, and we're feeling so trapped.
Well,
And
and
this
also they feel powerless.
empower, yes, that's a perfect word. And being able to do this, what you just described, even if it was over Zoom, so people aren't getting together because they're nervous about that.
Right.
There are ways we can do things. And I think it's a matter of starting to find solutions instead of always pointing fingers and looking for someone else to solve it. I forget who said it. The buck stops here. We've got to decide to make a decision on our own if we're going to change our country. And together we can do it. And we can change our neighborhood, and we can
Absolutely.
change our family. And so, ladies and gentlemen who are watching, I want you to know that Miss Stephanie Mann is going to be with us for the next several weeks, possibly a couple months. She's written a couple of books, 6 books, and she's going to share with us some of the steps to empowering your family, empowering your children, empowering your parenting, to creating resilient children. She's going to teach us some other things about what we can do in our communities. And I think she's given us a really good overview today of her background and what she's done to help. So if you've got questions, please post them in the comments and we will get to them and share out some links and share out some things for you guys. But we would love to share this out. Tag a doctor, tag a real estate agent. If you know someone who could sponsor this idea, because I think that people that are in business, they want a safe community for their business as
They
well.
sure do. It helps everybody.
It
And
helps
I
everybody.
might mention that Alternative to Fear Guidelines for Safer Neighborhoods is on our website, and you can read the whole thing,
Oh,
the
cool.
original book. And all you have to do is go to safekidsnow.com and look under books, and you'll see all of all the books that we have, including the small one and the original Alternative to Fear Guidelines for Safer Neighborhoods book.
Perfect. And we'll put links to those on this Facebook page for everybody to see. If you know somebody who could benefit from this message, please share it. If you know someone who works in a school, if you know someone who is a counselor, please share this message. We really want to, change our community, and it only starts with you. You have to make a decision. If you get value from what we've shared with you today, please help us get the word out. Neighborhood Watch is something that started years ago, but it's not something that has to be gone. And I think a lot of times we look at, well, that's an old program. That's something that was done before. Well, maybe sometimes we need to look at bringing some of those things back because they worked. And we need to bring that back because our community deserves to feel safe and connected. And Stephanie, thank you so much for just
Sure.
educating me just a little bit that you did today. And I look forward to sharing more of you and what you can do to help us be more educated, be more safe, and create safe communities for our children.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Jennifer. I appreciate it.
You are so very welcome. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Miss Stephanie Mann will be back with us next Friday at 2:30. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.